Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, just give me a shout out. My name is Jackie Dixon. I'm the founder of a company called VLX, which helps Christian women learn to love their bodies and their looks and their relationships with God, themselves, and men, so they can really be powerful in the world and do amazing positive things. So I'm actually about to run off to a birth appointment, not a birth appointment, but a baby appointment. I'm 9 months pregnant, so that's been the weirdest thing. I'm 36 weeks pregnant, which translates to 9 months. And you would think that that's when the pregnancy's over. That's what I had always thought. But apparently it's actually 40 weeks, so really 10 months of pregnancy. But anyway, I'm about to go to an appointment, and I wanted to talk before I leave in about 20 minutes is all I have, about the incredible switch that I've made from more traditional Western medical care to more natural, still in a hospital setting, Western medicine, sure, but very, very different. And wanted to kind of just tell you my experiences real briefly and talk most importantly about the importance of becoming your own advocate, especially in health matters, but really in all areas of life. So we started, first of all, this is our first child. My husband and I have no experience in baby raising whatsoever. I was never one of those girls who always wanted to be a mom, so I never looked into pregnancy or motherhood or researched this, and I knew nothing. In fact, I was about 13 weeks pregnant, and my mother said, you really need to go start getting some prenatal care. And it hadn't even occurred to me. I kind of figured like, well, my body's just doing its thing, and isn't that just how it works? So I finally went to a doctor, got some recommendations for a great OBGYN, and she was awesome. But as we were progressing, I was kind of noticing, and I've noticed this before when I've had ill family members, just the number of things that you're told to do and you're not told why. You're not told what they're for. You're not told whether or not that's your best option. You're not told whether or not there are side effects or potentially negative consequences. You're just kind of told what to do. And because someone is in a uniform or a white coat or a nurse outfit, you figure they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just do what they say. And that's not always the best option for us. And it's not that they mean us any harm, but my experience with the medical system, and I studied at an undergraduate school that had a lot of pre-meds. It was Johns Hopkins, and our joke was that if you threw a rock, you would hit a pre-med. And it kind of became obvious that this was a very large and well-organized, shall we say, system. And there wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room necessarily for the doctors to be able to really help each patient individually do what's best for them. That's the ideal scenario. That's what they're striving for. But with insurance and with pharmaceutical companies and just a bigger structure that they're playing within, they didn't always have that kind of time. They didn't always have that kind of flexibility. And so what that means is that you as the patient kind of have to go into the doctor's office knowing your body, knowing what you need, and knowing what's healthy and wise and what's going to work for you. And then most importantly, having the courage and the wisdom to say, no, thank you, to the things that you don't need and that you don't want and that might actually be dangerous for you. So throughout the course of this pregnancy, I was with the OBGYN, and she really was an absolute sweetheart. I almost want to apologize for switching, but I had to do, or I was asked to do a couple different tests that I just knew were not necessary for me. I know my body very, very well. I know how to take care of it very well. That's why I do health coaching. I'm extremely experienced in how to be in great health and really monitor all the little minor messages that my body's sending me. So I knew I didn't need to do certain tests, and yet they were protocol, they were required. And so it finally occurred to me that I maybe could say no. So I did some Googling, the source of true wisdom. I went to Google and I started looking up, do I really need to do this test? Do I really need to do this, whatever the protocol was? Do I need to really do these things that they're saying are necessary? And all of these bloggers and moms and even kind of midwives and doulas were saying, no, you really don't. It might be necessary if you have a history of this, but I don't. And so if you know that you don't need it, then don't do it. It's absurd to actually put your body through something that in some cases could be relatively traumatic, especially in the situation of pregnancy where you're already, dealing with some unique body functions that you haven't had before, you don't want to have to go through that. So I started politely saying no. And as an introvert, as someone who absolutely hates confrontation, will just run out of the room quietly. If there's an argument going on, I just don't like to be around that kind of tension. It has taken so much for me to learn how to say, no, I mean, thank you very much, but I'm not going to do that. And then they try to give you the reasons, give you the explanations, which they're A, probably required to do by law, and B, they really do want the best for you. And to still sit there and hold your ground and say, I hear that, I'm sure you're right, but I don't think that's right for me, so I'm not going to do that. You're never told, at least I was never told until I started working with more kind of a doula that we have and some more natural-oriented practitioners, that you have the right to refuse anything being done to your body. Now, they won't necessarily say that to you. They won't necessarily say, here's something that we recommend you do. You don't have to do it, but it's our recommendation. They just say, oh, you're at this week, or oh, this is happening to you. If it's not pregnancy, if it's a different health ailment, this is what's happening to you. We're going to do this. You just assume, well, then, okay, I guess so. That's what I have to do, so sure. No one says you don't have to. So when I started doing my research, finally, when I took the same personal responsibility that I've taken in every other area of my health and most areas of my life, and finally said, I'm going to look up what the real deal is. I want to know more about this. What are my options? I love that quote you guys may have heard. If you don't know your options, you don't have any. Whew, that's a stunner. So I finally started doing my research and learned that there were some different ways to go about this. And the primary mindset shift that happens, that is the kind of difference maker between the more traditional medicine, maybe an OBGYN, and your more maybe naturalistic midwives or doulas, is that birth is not a disease. And I've actually had people say that to me, really. I've gone to try to book a massage and they're like, oh, well, since you're having, a medical concern or a medical problem, and I feel like, dude, I'm having a medical miracle. This is not a medical concern or problem. This is like the most extraordinary miracle of life. I'm blown away that I can participate in it. But that's kind of the mentality, is that this is like almost a disease or a disorder that needs to be treated, that's inherently dangerous and scary and has to be managed lest it blow up and everything go wrong. And of course, there are lots of complications that can happen. But when you're a low-risk pregnancy patient like I am, you really don't have to do half the things they say. So then you've got the midwife, more doula model, which is that birth is natural. Birth is what a woman's body was designed to do. This is a process that happens kind of automatically unless something is unusual or off or wrong, and we just want to allow it to happen instead of fearfully kind of managing it in case something happens to go wrong and we're going to assume that it could go wrong. So I started reading more and more about this. My husband and I signed up for childbirth classes, natural childbirth classes, and we learned all these different things. You may have heard about the cascade of interventions and how one little thing, because they're afraid this could be going wrong, causes a side effect, which means now they've got to do this, which causes another side effect, which means they've got to do this. And before you know it, you're knocked out on, general anesthesia practically, and somebody's ripping you open to get your child out. And maybe it was necessary, but maybe it wasn't. And why didn't they tell you the full picture of all the information you needed so that you could know how to prepare, what your options were, and how to navigate this incredible process that is pretty scary in the end of it? I mean, I still haven't been through it yet, but from what I've heard, when you finally go into labor, it's kind of like, there's a lot going on, and you want to already know what you want, what you believe, what your options are, and what you want to do. So it's been really interesting to transition over to this more natural healthcare model, even to the point where my first appointment with the midwife was last week, and we were waiting, I think we were waiting to put me on the scale or something, and there was this bulletin board of all the pregnant mothers and children who they had safely delivered. And there were two women who were in this exercise pose, kind of an inverted stretching stance that I could never pull off. I can't even do a somersault, but so I was just mentioning the midwife, like, wow, that's really impressive that they can do that. In fact, I've almost heard that you're not supposed to during pregnancy unless you're really advanced in that kind of exercise. And instead of what I expected to happen, what has been told to me kind of throughout all of my interactions with doctors over my lifetime, which is, yeah, that is dangerous, we don't recommend it. It could lead to this, it could cause this problem, you really should avoid that. This wise older woman, this midwife, looked at me and said, "You will." And I was like, "Excuse me? Did you just affirm me in my personal physical power? Are you sure you're a healthcare practitioner, or are you really a life coach in disguise?" It was amazing to be so affirmed in the natural capacity and strength of my body, and in my ability to allow it to do incredible things that seem difficult or even impossible just by letting it, really, just by working on it and staying at peace and allowing it to do its thing. So I am so excited, believe it or not. I'm still a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but I am largely excited about this process and heading into labor at some point in the next month and a half, and having this incredible mentality of my body was designed to do this. If something goes wrong, if something is off, there's a whole team there at the hospital that can support us in any way we need. But I'm going to give my body the benefit of the doubt and let it do its thing. And I'm going to, most importantly, know my options, have a birth plan, have a doula who can kind of help me maintain this strength of, no, I don't want to do that. Yes, I might want to do this, and knowing my options and really acting out those options in the moment. I'm really kind of pumped. I'm excited to see what my body can do. But most importantly, I am so renewed in my conviction that it is so critical that we all do our own research. Don't walk into a room with a professional, and they're all well-intentioned, I'm sure, but you've got to know your own options. You've got to know your own body. You've got to know the research, and I don't just mean, the top 3 Google search research. I mean, do the breadth of research on a topic. If it's really important, if it's your health, your body, even your life that's on the line, you've got to know what the real deal is. So don't stop and just assume that the protocol is the best way to go. I cannot encourage you enough, whether you're pregnant also, or you're younger, or you're older, whatever your health or life kind of situation might be your own advocate. Know what your options are. Do your research, and then have the courage to politely, kindly, persistently go and do it your own way. There's so many options out there. We don't even know how many options we have, and we won't unless we do the research and we look them up. So I did mention that I'm a health coach, and if you love this kind of natural philosophy, this holistic way of seeing your body and your health, I do have a free guide at my main website, which is jackiedixon.org, JACKIEDIXON.org, and it talks about both the holistic and more spiritual, kind of emotional and physical, practical ways of caring for your body. And as I've gone through this pregnancy, I'm so glad I had that foundation. And it's so interesting to see how it's being expanded and how important it is as my body prepares to go through precisely what it was designed to do. So I hope this has been helpful. You can come visit me at that website too, and we can hang out and chat, and you can visit my blog and see what else I'm up to. But thank you for joining me on this Periscope, and best wishes to you, whatever situation you're in. Please be empowered, be your own advocate, and do what you know is right for you, regardless of maybe the status quo or the typical way things are done. God bless you, gorgeous. Have a great day.